just a soft light in our lives, constantly encouraging, being positive.
That light snuffed out.
She was 27 years old, a mother of 3 little girls. She had just moved to a new city, found her own apartment, and for the first time in a long time, she was not looking back. She was done. Not angry, not dramatic, just done. And according to her family, the moment she finally stopped trying to hold that relationship together, the moment she let him walk out without begging him to stay, that was the moment everything changed.
To my knowledge, he um, busted into her home and shot her and then shot himself. And both of her children were there.
ShaKeva Dixon had done what everyone always says to do. She left. She built distance. She built a life. Her 1-year-old and 2-year-old daughters were inside that apartment the night he came back. Her family has been vocal, raw, and unfiltered about what they believe happened and why. And the internet has not been quiet either. Because the question that keeps coming up, the one that nobody seems to have a clean answer to, is this. She did everything right. She left. So why wasn't that enough to save her? Kiva, as her family called her, was born and raised in Goldsboro, North Carolina. From early on, the people around her recognized something in her, a warmth that pulled people in. She was the kind of person who noticed when someone was struggling. She showed up. She encouraged people without being asked. She wanted everyone around her to succeed, and she meant it genuinely. But the center of her life, the thing that organized everything else, was her 3 daughters. Her oldest was 9. Her 2 youngest were 1 and 2 years old. 3 girls at completely different stages, each needing something different, and Kiva gave to all 3 without complaint. Motherhood was not something she performed for others. It was simply who she was.
She was a nice, intelligent, smart mom, and she always had my back when I was down.
She just wanted to see everybody succeed, and she wanted to be a great mother. She wanted to be there for all 3 of her girls.
Her relationship with Maurice Langston was a long one. He was 36, 9 years older than her, and their connection ran deep in the way that extended relationships do. They shared history, they shared 2 of her 3 daughters, and they shared a dynamic that, by family accounts, was never fully stable. On paper, Maurice had structure. He had worked as a machine operator at Anchor Coupling, Inc., a Caterpillar-affiliated facility in Goldsboro, since 2015. He had studied business administration at Gwinnett Technical College. He was a graduate of Spring Creek High School. He was also a father to children across multiple relationships, different households, different obligations, different pressures, pulling in different directions simultaneously. Family members described what Kiva experienced in that relationship as primarily verbal, mental, and emotional. Not always the kind of thing visible from the outside. Not always the kind of thing that announces itself clearly to the people watching. It was persistent. It accumulated, and it wore her down across years in ways that she largely carried quietly, without telling everyone around her the full weight of what she was dealing with. She tried to leave more than once. Family members knew that. They had watched the cycles, the distance, the separation, the gravitational pullback, because love does not vanish simply because a relationship becomes harmful. There are children. There is shared history. There is always the hope, however faint, that something might change. But in August of 2025, something did change. Only it was Kiva who changed it. She relocated from Goldsboro to Durham. She found her own apartment. She moved her children with her. And this time, the people closest to her could feel that it was different. She was not testing distance. She was not leaving a door open behind her. She was mentally and emotionally finished. And for the first time, she was not entertaining the idea of going back. Durham also meant family nearby. People who could help with the girls. People who would notice if something was off. She was building a support structure deliberately, not just emotionally relocating, but practically setting herself up to hold the line she had drawn. And then, in the weeks leading up to February, she recommitted to her faith. Family members said she had given her life to God and was planning to return to church that coming Sunday. To the people who knew her, that felt like someone who had been carrying something heavy for a very long time, finally setting it down. She had her apartment, her daughters, her family close, her faith renewed. She was planning for Sunday morning. From the outside, it looked like the beginning of something good. The night of February 3rd did not announce itself as anything unusual. It was a quiet night at the Cresby Apartments on Crest Street in Durham. Other residents settling in. Children asleep behind closed doors. The kind of stillness a neighborhood carries when nothing seems out of place. ShaKeva was home. Her 2 youngest daughters were with her. At some point that evening, Maurice arrived. An argument followed. The exact words exchanged, the specific sequence of what was said, those details belonged to the people who were there. But family describes clearly what happened next. During that argument, Maurice said he was leaving. ShaKeva did not stop him. No pleading, no raised voice asking him to stay, no attempt to smooth it over. For a man who had spent years in a relationship where conflict was met with someone trying to fix things, trying to hold everything together, her stillness was something he was not equipped to absorb. He left, and then he came back.
Hey, just an FYI, this apartment has obviously been forced in, a child crying. I mean, we're kind of concerned that there's somebody hurt inside. A lot of sheetrock dust. There's door frame fragments on the couch. So this fairly clearly was kicked open recently.
He did not knock. He returned with a force that left physical evidence throughout that apartment. Sheetrock dust on the floor, door frame fragments on the couch. A front window with a bullet hole visible from the street outside. He kicked in the front door. He forced his way upstairs. He kicked in the bedroom door. ShaKeva's 1-year-old and 2-year-old daughters were present when he fired that weapon inside their mother's home. He then exited the apartment. There was a pause, a break in the sequence, a window of seconds that passed without changing anything. He re-entered. A second shot followed, self-inflicted. And when Durham police arrived at the complex just after 10 o'clock that night, they found 2 adults dead from gunshot wounds and 2 little girls alive inside the apartment.
Just a couple of moments ago, we did have a forensics investigator finally get here on the scene. Police have been here at, you mentioned, 2800 block of Crest Drive since about 10 o'clock last night. Police say they got the report of a shooting here, and when officers got here, they found a man and a woman both suffering from gunshot wounds. Both are pronounced dead here at the scene. Now, police say, based on the preliminary investigation, it appears that this is a murder-suicide. Their identities, of course, not released yet as police continue to investigate here. But as I mentioned, they've been here since about 10 o'clock last night. They have kind of part of this block shut down a little bit, trying to keep as many people out of the scene as possible. Of course, it is very early, so as the morning progresses, we'll likely start to see more people come out of their apartments, possibly try to get out for work for the day. But for right now, police have been blocking these entrances to this apartment complex. But we've been here just a couple moments here. As again I mentioned, that the forensics investigator just arrived here. We'll make sure to keep you updated if anything here changes or if we learn anything.
9 hours. That is how long investigators worked that scene. Officers blocked every entrance to the complex through the night and into the early morning, while forensic teams worked inside the apartment where ShaKeva had been trying to build her new life. Her 2 daughters were physically unharmed. No medical intervention was needed for them, but they were there, present for all of it. And that reality settled over everyone who followed this case in a way that no other detail quite matched, because there are no words for what 2 babies carry forward from a night like that, even without fully understanding what they witnessed. When news of ShaKeva's death began to spread, grief moved fast, through family, through the Goldsboro community she had grown up in, through Durham, through social media. And with the grief came something else from the people closest to her. Not shock, but a particular kind of devastation that comes from watching something you feared finally happen. They had known, not the exact night, not the exact sequence, but they had known the relationship. They had watched the cycles. They had seen ShaKeva try to create distance before. And now she was gone at 27 years old with 3 daughters who would grow up without her.
A local family's rallying around two young children after the murder of their mother at the hands of their father.
WRL's Willie Danley sat down with ShaKeva Dixon's family to talk about the very difficult road ahead.
The family of ShaKeva Dixon say she will be remembered as a devoted mother. Now her kids will grow up without either parent after Dixon was killed by her youngest children's father in a murder-suicide. Dixon's youngest kids are just 1 and 2 years old.
They're going to be loved and taken care of, but it's not, you know, we can't bring the mom back.
They cannot bring her back. That sentence sits at the center of everything the family has said publicly since her death. Because all the action they took, and they took a great deal of it, exists in the shadow of that one irreversible fact. The oldest daughter is 9 years old enough to understand, old enough to carry memories, old enough to ask questions that will not have easy answers for years. The youngest two are 1 and 2, young enough that their picture of their mother will be built almost entirely from what the people around them choose to pass down. From photographs kept on walls, from stories told at the dinner table, from the way her name is spoken in the years ahead. That responsibility now sits entirely with Keva's family, and they took it seriously from day one.
In many instances where both parents die in a domestic violence situation, the children have no choice but to go into the foster care system. I reached out to the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services and was told that there are currently over 10,000 children in the system.
Well, we have a large family, and we're going to have to pull together, and at this time we're still doing the best we can in making sure that they're taken care of.
Over 10,000 children in the North Carolina foster care system at the time of this report. That number puts into sharp focus exactly what Keva's family did and how quickly they did it. They secured temporary custody of the girls immediately and began working through the legal process to make it permanent. They did not wait. They did not hesitate. These children were not going into a system. A GoFundMe was set up, not to memorialize the circumstances of Keva's death, but to support the living. Legal fees for the custody process, the cost of raising 3 young girls, therapy for children who will need it, the practical foundation of stability that Keva herself had been working to build when her life was taken. The fundraiser kept her at the center, not as a victim reduced to a tragic story, but as a mother whose love for her daughters was still shaping decisions being made on their behalf. The community responded. People who had never met Keva contributed and shared. Left comments about women in their own lives, about what this story meant to them personally. The response was not just sympathy, it was recognition. People saw something in Keva's story that felt familiar in the most painful way. But while the family was grieving and organizing and fighting for those children, something was unfolding online that did not sit quietly. People connected to Maurice Langston began posting, asking for prayers for his family, expressing grief and loss on his behalf, describing devastation from his side. Keva's family saw it, and their response was immediate. They were not extending prayers in his direction. Not publicly, not privately, not alongside their grief for Keva. For them, this was not a situation with equal weight on both sides. Keva was the one who had moved out. Keva was the one building something new. Keva was the one whose door was kicked in while her babies were home. Asking her family to grieve both sides simultaneously felt, to them, like being asked to minimize what had been done to her, to soften it for the comfort of people who were not the ones burying her. That position sparked real debate online. Some people understood it without question. Others pushed back, arguing that his children also lost a father, that grief on his side was also real, that pain cannot be ranked. The conversation went deep and it went wide across comment sections and shared posts. But Keva's family held their position without apology. Because in a relationship where Keva had spent years trying to establish her own boundaries, her right to leave, her right to say no, her right to stop managing someone else's emotions, her family was not about to compromise that boundary on her behalf after her death. And then there was the post from her older sister. That post traveled far, screenshot and reshared across platforms. And the reason it landed so hard is because it was not a carefully prepared public statement. It was a sister writing to someone who could no longer respond, raw, unfiltered, and completely honest. Every line in it carries something specific worth sitting with. The photo detail that ShaKeva had posted something just 2 days before her death and looked calm, peaceful, beautiful. That detail hit people hard because it captured the brutal randomness of how quickly everything ended. She was present. She was fine. She was posting, and then she was not there anymore. The line about God being tired of her suffering opened a door into something the family had been carrying. The things she never spoke of. ShaKeva had not told everyone everything. She kept parts of what she was going through to herself. The verbal and emotional weight of years in that relationship, the exhaustion of the cycles, the loneliness of navigating it largely in silence. Her family knew pieces of it, but not all of it. And her sister's grief included mourning the parts of ShaKeva's story that died with her. The things that will now never be fully told. That last line, unedited and honest, reflected exactly where the family stood. Not softened for public reception, not adjusted for how it would be received. Just true. The post became a reference point in every online conversation about this case. People quoted it, responded to it, felt the weight of it across distance because grief that honest reaches people regardless of whether they knew the person. The cousin who spoke to the press in the immediate aftermath had also been one of the last people in contact with ShaKeva before the shooting.
New tonight, we are hearing from family of a woman found dead in Durham along with her ex-boyfriend. ShaKeva Dixon's cousin told us that her children were in the apartment when she was shot and killed. Police are investigating the case as a possible murder-suicide. WRL's Monica Casey joins us from Durham tonight after hearing from that family.
Her cousin, Sharina Steeple, tells me Dixon had been on the phone with her mother just 20 minutes before the shooting.
20 minutes between a phone call and a crime scene. ShaKeva was on the phone with her mother 20 minutes before everything ended. She was present. She was connected. She was in contact with her family. The same family that would spend the following days fighting for her children and making sure her name was attached to who she was, rather than simply to how she died. That phone call ended normally. Nothing alarming. Nothing that signaled what was 20 minutes away. And then the world her mother knew changed permanently. In the weeks after her death, ShaKeva's family did not go quiet. They gave interviews, they stayed visible online, they kept speaking about who she was, the encouragement she gave freely, the way she showed up for people, the faith she was rebuilding, the Sunday morning she was already looking forward to. They were deliberate about it. They were not going to let her story be reduced to a case number or a statistic in a report about rising domestic violence trends.
As the family grieves together, they're asking the community for support and prayers.
Durham police classified the case as an apparent domestic violence incident, and the investigation was closed from a legal standpoint. No trial, no courtroom testimony, no formal proceedings where details might surface through cross-examination. The file was shut quietly and without ceremony. From a legal standpoint, it was over. From a human standpoint, for 3 little girls, for a mother who is gone, for a family doing the hard daily work of holding itself together, none of this has an ending. ShaKeva Dixon was 27 years old. She relocated to a new city and found her own apartment and stopped begging a man to stay. Her older sister wrote that just 2 days before she died, she looked calm, beautiful, and at peace. She was planning for Sunday. She had a future she was actively building. Her daughters are being raised by people who love their mother. Her name is still being spoken. The GoFundMe is still supporting the life her family is building around those girls. And the people who knew ShaKeva best are making sure that everything remembered about her is bigger than the night it ended. No. They cannot bring her back, but they are making sure she is not forgotten. If this story moved you, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.